Hi, you're listening to God, Ghosts, and Government, a weekly conversation with Senator Kim Jackson, where she'll reflect on her journey as an Episcopal priest, farmer, legislator, and much more. I'm your host, Sharitha J., and I'm honored to share this space with you. Let's begin. Hey, it's your girl, Sharitha J., and we're back with your weekly recap. Hey, Senator Jackson, how are you?
Hey girl, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm energized a little bit. You know, it might be because I just poured myself a cup of coffee, but I'm feeling energetic and ready. Oh.
I've
And
got my AHA caffeinated. It apparently looks like beer to people on the floor when I have it on the floor, but I'm ready to go too. That's why I'm rocking. Free advertisement for Coke. Also a plug to say, Coke, please don't discontinue my drink. I love it. But they are discontinuing it. So bye
oh
bye.
no. Well, so now we have to figure out how to stockpile this.
I know,
Just
right? Like, come on, Coke, come through. I've been advertising for 3, 4 years for y'all on AHA. Y'all can bring me a pallet of it
a
since you're going
palette
out.
of aha.
I mean, that'll last me a little while.
A little while, yes. Well, I'm glad that you have your AHA caffeinated beverage, non-alcoholic. We want to note that you don't have an alcoholic beverage on the floor. Uh,
Right.
and on the podcast. But speaking of being on the floor, I want to get right into it because I had an opportunity to cross paths with you this week where you came off of the floor to come over and visit and check in with one of our parishioners from Church of the Common Ground.
Yeah, so first of all, shout out to you for alerting me to the need to kind of show up. But I had the great privilege. I went in, I ran in. So I don't know if folks who've seen the way we kind of work, we do a roll call at the beginning of the day. And so I ran over, I pressed my button, letting people know that I was here, and then ran from the floor out of the Capitol across the street to Central looking for our parishioner. We'll call him Roscoe. And because we had a house for him to move into, we had a place for him.
Yes.
And you had told me that he didn't want to move off the streets. So it was really, thank you, Sharitha, for kind of coordinating to make it fit into a narrative. I didn't miss a single vote. But more importantly than that, Roscoe got in a car and went to the place. Shout out to the city of Atlanta, the creation of the Melody, which is a 40-unit village of what are those steel containers that they've turned into housing for folks. Roscoe went, signed his lease, and moved in. So
Yes.
just huge blessing. And I think that honestly, like wearing my badge, like having it be like the Senator Kim Jackson who was talking to him, seemed to have really made a difference in terms of getting him to go ahead and move into his place. So
Yes.
and and words of gratitude to you, Sharitha. Roscoe made number 6, the sixth person from our congregation to move into the Melody. And then I know that afternoon, Auntie Deb also moved in. So that's 7
Yes.
of our members
We got
in what,
7.
one week? 7 in
In
a week?
7 in a week, and also Incense Man.
And
So
Incense Man. So
yeah,
8.
incense. So 8 in 1 week. Incense signed as well, and my heart is genuinely full. I mean, these are the moments, and so I'm glad that we're taking time to note it and highlight it here because it's truly special.
Yeah. I mean, this is the God moment, right, Sharitha? This is
Yeah.
God goes to government. I think it's important to highlight like having our parishioners move from the streets to a place is incredible. And listening,
Yeah.
while I was trying to find Roscoe on Tuesday, there was one of our parishioners who came up to me, Mr. Jimmy, who's been sleeping outside for a year. How
Yeah.
old? Mr. Jimmy is probably in his 60s, maybe.
Probably. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but he came up to me completely unprovoked. I just said, congratulations, Jimmy. and he'd been in his place for less than a week, all right, just a few days, and he
Just a
said to
few
me,
days.
yeah, just a few days. And he said, he was like, Pastor Kim, I gotta tell you, like, moving inside has taken my stress level from a 10 to a 0. He's like, my body feels better. My bones aren't
Yes.
hurting from sleeping on the cement. And he's like, my
Yes.
health, I can tell is getting better because I'm eating better. My nutrition is better. I mean, he just like, he testified.
Yeah.
And just to how amazing it is to be able to be inside and to see the joy and the glee on his face, the photos that you took of other folks as they were moving in, all the stuff that happens under the Gold Dome. There are good things and there's a whole lot of bad things too. But walking across the street this week has been my God moment of really seeing God alive in the testimonies of these folks who are so grateful, right? Like the gratitude just
Yes.
radiates. And it's not like, oh, I had to sleep outside for like 12 years before I could get here. Like it's not that. It doesn't matter how long they've been outside. They are just
Yes.
in the moment and grateful right now to have a warm place. Mr. Jimmy talked about having a key to lock the door.
It's Isn't it something? I asked Jimmy, I said, "Hey, Jimmy, how'd you sleep last night?" And he looked right at me with this big, big smile and said, "I did." And that was full stop. I
Yeah,
did. No aches and pain from the concrete. And again, just, throwing it back to you to say thank you because it really is a team effort. We cannot do this work alone. So for you to answer the call like you always do, it makes a difference. Our parishioners know that they have someone under the gold dome, and it's not just for show. It's not just to say you make your way. So it's really special to have you come by and make your presence known. And Roscoe, he did not believe you. He was just like, "You're not a state senator. There's
I
no
was
way.
like,
You just a
the
pastor.
badge.
You know, you just he thought we put on a whole production to, make you out to be a state senator. Just no, this is an actual event that's taking place. She legitimately came over here to talk to you. And it made a difference. It made a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, well, I wasn't willing to let my eyes off of him until he was in the car with our social
Oh
worker.
my
Like,
goodness.
we're gonna do this, man. And I mean, I love our folks, Sharitha, because I came over there in my suit, and we don't do outfits of the week anymore. But
Mhm.
like, I came over in my suit, and they just let me know. They're like, "Oh, Pastor Kim, you look so fly. That's
Uh,
a nice suit." I was like, "Y'all just you good for the ego, you know."
yeah,
You make a girl feel good. But
indeed.
yeah, it's just a real blessing to be able to do these tangible things
Yeah.
of getting folks into housing. And I'll make this plug. We don't usually do this, but I can't raise money for my campaign during session. But if you've heard this story about Mr. Jimmy and about Roscoe and Incense Man, that's 7, 8 people that we've gotten housed just in this week,
Yeah.
and you feel compelled, we invite you to make a contribution to the Church of the Common Ground so that we can continue this work of moving folks into housing and making sure they have the supplies that they need when they're there. So check us out. It's churchofthecommonground.org, all those words. And you can hit a donate button. And we'd love to have you also follow us on social media. It's my podcast. I can plug other things if I want, right?
You sure can. You sure can. Look, I'm sitting here like, please, Church of the Common Ground.org. Visit us there and visit us in the community. So thank you. Thank you. Look, Reverend Senator uh, Kim Jackson. For those who listened to the previous episode, you might have heard that we kind of got into the midst of it when Senator Jackson got to meet or connect with Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock just last week. So that said, we're going to continue to build off of this God moment and work our way towards the government piece of it. It seems like you have had a busy week, per
Yeah.
usual. Let's get into it. Where have you not only you talked about where you've seen God, we've talked about a God moment, but like what are the highlights from this week, Senator Jackson?
Yeah, and so I think we before we always do like a little clip or a little chat before we start press play, and I was like, I don't know what I've even done this week. It's been so full. But we've been on the floor yesterday. We spent probably about 4 hours debating one bill, which was I don't know numbers, so pardon
Mm-hmm.
me, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a bill that would restrict any company that comes to Georgia and receives state funding, like government incentives, tax credits, those kinds of things. This bill would say that you cannot recognize any unionization on your property by majority consent. Uh, if you do, you have to return your state and like your state incentive. So you have to return the millions of dollars if you just through consent
Hmm.
accept the unionization of your employees. So it preserves a secret ballot process because there are two different ways to become a union. Really, really, I'm not going to give you 4 hours worth of testimony. Just
Okay.
the real quick and dirty of how unionization works is two things. One way is that people who work at an employee who work at a place can sign a union card. And when a majority of the people sign a union card, an employer can just say, hey, okay, I see the majority of you all have signed it, so I'm going to recognize you all as a bargaining unit. That's one way to begin that unionization process. The other
Okay.
way is via secret ballot. And the secret ballot actually has to be run by this outside agency. It's actually a federal agency or federal, it's like quasi-federal, but it's federally regulated. And they come in and it takes weeks to do the secret ballot. And all in the meantime, while this secret balloting process is happening, the
Mm-hmm.
employers are using intimidation, or at least can, not everybody does, but there's greater chance for intimidation practices to be happening to try to keep people from voting on that secret ballot to unionize. So both processes are legal, they're protected by federal law. And this legislation would say, well, in Georgia, you can do it that way. You can do the, like, we see you got those union cards and we accept you. But if you do, you got to return all your money that you've gotten from the state through initiative. So bad bill for labor, bad bill for unions. And so we fought hard on the floor to at least state for the record our support of unions and why this bill is problematic. So that's probably the biggest, most contentious bill that we had this week.
Wow. Well, building off of bad bills and the quick and dirty, I also saw that you got something along the lines with SB 63, where it will criminalize bail funds. Uh,
Yeah, so that was last week. We didn't talk about this.
we
How
didn't,
did we
so
not
that
talk about
happened
it?
right after we recorded, so I wanted to share it
Yeah.
here.
No, so thank you for bringing that up. That is probably, well, I don't want to predict, but it is certainly one of the most egregious criminal repeal, like deformation. I think we talked about that last year, how we did criminal reform, justice reform work before, and now we're
Mm-hmm.
doing this, we're rolling it back and deforming it. So, what SB 63 does is that it adds like 20 offenses, most of which are misdemeanors, to the list of things that you have to have cash in order to get out of jail for. So, right now, if one of our parishioners, and this is so real for us, right? If
Mm-hmm.
one of our parishioners gets arrested for criminal trespass, which is not unusual, or for obstruction, which obstruction means I just don't like you, so I'm gonna arrest you.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, I'm
Which
sure there
can
are other,
happen.
right. But the most two common offenses that our parishioners get arrested for are criminal trespass and obstruction.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now, before this bill becomes a law, if you get arrested for criminal trespass, then the judge can say, like, hey, just sign a signature bond. Here's your court date. Show up whenever. And you just leave, right? Like, it's no big deal, no cash required. This bill says if you get arrested on the second time for criminal trespass, you have to put up a bond. You have to put up a bond. Now, and they will say, oh, well, that's not really a big deal because the judge can make the bond. They could even make it just like $1. It could just be $5. But if you are in jail, you don't have $5, right?
$5.
And especially, and if you're homeless, you don't have $5. And the problem that's like extraordinary for us, Sharitha at Common Ground, where we are used to bailing people
Mm-hmm.
out, is that now charitable funds, places like us, churches, we will be restricted to only being able to bail out 3 people a year. 3 a year total, or we have to become an official bondsman. Like we have to become an actual bonding company if we want to bail out more than 3 of our parishioners. So like
Now,
God forbid our like a group of our parishioners get arrested at the same time.
I'm laughing, and it's not because it's not funny, but I'm laughing because both you and I wear many hats, and now I'm imagining becoming
A bond company.
A buzz. Just like we'll just add it to the resume. I I
Yeah.
this is so significant. And I think about, we've had a scenario where, our community can be transient at times. And, sometimes you'll connect with someone, they're here today and can be gone the next. And I mention that because sometimes this disappearance, if you will, can be because they've been arrested. And sometimes we lose connections with folks who we've been very much so building relationships with to get them into or onto a path of finding housing and just continuing to be in community. We had a dear parishioner who was, he couldn't pay a bill for self-defense. He was arrested and basically sat in jail for 6 months. His hearing came up and they looked at the paperwork and said, okay, you can go. He didn't have the funds to bail himself out initially. And he just sat there and they just released him. He just sat there for 6 months. So these types of bills really hit home, if you will, for our community members, for our parishioners. So another
Yeah.
bad bill alert.
It's a bit, I mean, and it's done. Like that was a
Yeah.
conference committee bill, so
Yeah.
it had already gone through the House, the Senate. This was a compromise bill, and
Oh,
this is where we landed. So, the other thing I want to name, like we have, yes, this is a thumbs down
go
bill.
down.
But Senator Reverend Warnock, who was here with us
Hmm.
last week, his church actively does with other
Hmm.
people, a Mother's Day bailout for mothers and caretakers who are in jail. That whole program will have to be revamped. They will have to become a bonds person, or I don't know. Actually, I don't know how this
Hmm.
will work, but I do. I have enough faith and trust in the innovation of people to know that charitable funds, we will figure out a way around this.
Yeah.
But our traditional bail funds that have allowed protesters to get out of, jail, that have gotten mothers out of jail for Mother's Day, those traditional bail funds, will are now essentially illegal. It's a misdemeanor to bail more than 3 people out at a time. The example that a friend of mine gave is like, if you have 4 children who are in a car and they all get arrested at the same time for one of these one of these offenses, a parent's gonna have to decide which of the 3 out of the 4 am I gonna bail out,
Just,
and hope to God that they have another friend who can put up the bond for the other one, right? Like, so it's a must. I mean, and last thing I want to be clear about this. So the distinction is we can bail people out still, but we will have to
mhm.
go through bonds. We'd have to go through a bonding company in order to do it after the third person. So instead of us just going to the courthouse and putting up the $100 bail, we put up the cash and we get it back when they show up for court, and like when it's all done, we get that money back. Instead of us
Mhm.
being able to do that after the third person, we will have to go to the bonding company where we won't ever get our money back because they get 10%, really it's 12. We know this, right? For those bigger bonds that we put up, it's 12%. So we just lose the 12%. It's just gone. So this is really a bail bondsman bill, as if they don't have enough money already. It's wild. I'm sorry. I won't take up any more time about it. Clearly,
Oh,
I'm very upset.
yeah. For those who are listening to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, you can't see the look of disgust that I have on my face. YouTube, you're welcome. I want you to feel every piece of this disgust that I have. Like that is egregious. Like what? Well, sounds like a lot of hateration happening, Senator Jackson, but that's not, we're not new to it. But in keeping with the theme of that, we're gonna move on to a little bit more hate. I know it's the opposite of what we tend to focus on, but this is just a part of the week. So I saw that there's what GOP lawmakers are proposing that the LGBTQ community be removed from from the hate crimes description. So what are we doing this week?
Yeah, just definitely a blow to the LGBTQ community. This is a continued attack on trans folks. And I've been saying this every time I go and I speak to a group of LGBTQ folks. I talk about, right now, last year it was all about trans children, right? Trans children not being able to get medication. The year before that, not being able to play on the sports. And I've always said to the LGBTQ community, we have to rally around them. I'm not trans, right? I'm very out, proud lesbian. But if they come for the trans kids, they're gonna come for us. It's just a matter of time. They are coming for us, and now is the day. We have finally arrived where they are coming for the entire community because they can't figure out how to parse it out. In order to get their definitions for sex and gender legalized in this particular way, they can't parse out because these people don't understand or care to understand the difference between sexual orientation and gender expression. They just refuse to try to understand that. And so they pull us out of the hate crimes law. Now, I'm not making bets here,
Mm-hmm.
but if I were a betting person, which we all know I voted against sports betting, but if I were a betting person, I would bet that this doesn't go through. Um, we spent the first week of the first week that we were in the legislature, we spent how many hours, untold hours, trying to get Jewish anti-Semitism, the definition of anti-Semitism included in the hate crime statute. So we've done all of this work to make sure that anti-Semitism is included in the hate crime statute. And now we're going to take out a whole different group of people. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that I think we're better than that. I think
Mm-hmm.
not only is Georgia better than that, I think the General Assembly is better than that. So let's hold on. It is an election year, so I could be wrong, but I told my colleagues in the House, they're actually meeting right now. The
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ caucus is meeting as we're recording in the House. And I said to them, like, I think y'all can handle this. I do think this will die in the House. So let's hold it, pray.
Yeah.
If it does get a hearing, we need to send out an alert to say people like, hey, this is a horrible bill. We need to stand against it.
All right. I pray it holds. And I hope that you're correct. I know you're not a betting person, but I hope that your inclinations are spot on this one. But it's not all hate. We do know that there will be a Pride Day at the Capitol under the Gold Dome happening this month, February 27th. So it will be
That's great.
a means of
I'm
celebration.
impressed. I don't even know about that. So that's great. I
Well,
mean,
look,
I'm sure my office helped make it happen, but great. I'm looking forward to it. I'll try to make sure I wear a rainbow.
I hope that I hope you do. I hope you're there. Well, I mean, and this is insight. You show up. You are just checking the boxes and making sure you are where you need to be to tackle the issues at hand. That's why we do this weekly recap because so much is happening. Speaking of, I was just about to hop into another event, but we haven't taken time to acknowledge the very thing that we celebrate 365. It is Black History Month, but as always, it's Black History 365, and I always like to put you on the spot and say that you are a Black History fact.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's going to be a long time though before. So I don't know if you did this when you were growing up, Sharitha, but we had Easter speeches, but we also had Black History Day speeches at church.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so every Black History Month at church, we'd have to learn about like a person in Black history and talk about them, or like sometimes we'd do a play and we'd like dress up with them. Like I remember being like Jackie Joyner Kersey or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably going to be a I will probably not be alive to see the day when Kim Jackson is in a church a church speech for Black History Month. So and I'm
Well,
good with that. I'm good with that. So
fair enough. Well, I do have a question now. Are you still on display at the what is
the
it?
Center for
The
Civil
sim
and Human Rights. Yes,
Yeah.
I am. I along with I think there are 13 of us are still a part of
Mm-hmm.
the Out Down South display that's out in front of the Center for Health, the Center for Civil and Human Rights. It's outside and people can go and see it for free. Actually, you don't have to have admission to the center or the museum. So go check it out. Yeah, it's really cool. I every once in a while, like it's very random. I'll get like text messages all of a sudden from like a friend who's got my face and they're standing beside it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's still there. That's so cool.
It's pretty awesome to see, I must say. So whenever I've had a chance to walk by, I'm just like, I know her. I know her. So it feels good to be able to say that. So okay, well, happy Black History Month to you, Senator Jackson, and all
Happy
who
Black History
celebrate.
Month.
But as I said, it's Black History 365. 365. Now, continuing on with our highlights from this week, I saw that you stopped by Agnes Scott this week.
And, and I
And
hear that you attend Agnes Scott, but you were not there. So I'm not sure
I,
about that anymore. I got questions.
I, ironically enough, I was in class. I had class while you were having an event at Agnes Scott, so I was supporting you from afar. Please tell me how it went. I hope that you got plenty of Scotty love while
Oh,
there.
so much Scotty love. Let me say, these last 3 weeks, I've been listening to the like episodes of our pod from this year. Man, it's been depressing. Like it's clearly we've been having a hard time. I think this is the first pod this season that I haven't been like, it's hard. Um, so and the reason why I am like, even with SB63, even with this like hate crime stuff, I think so much of my energy comes from the Scotty love that I received this week. Those young women were so incredible. They're excited. I received a text message from one of the professors afterwards, and she's like, "Dear Kim, I just want you to know that all of the Scotties are a little bit in love with you." Which is like super sweet. And they're like, they think you're so cool, but more importantly, like you give them hope that they can show up authentically in their own world and their own lives in a way that they didn't know was possible. And so I had a great time. I was interviewed by two young women who were just on point. They were awesome. And I told when I got in the car, I called Trina and I said, I didn't realize that me having a nose piercing and, natural hair was a
Mm-hmm.
statement piece, right? Like to me, it's just who I am, right? Like I
How you
just show
show
up.
up.
But for those young women, seeing me be a full grown ass professional
Mm-hmm.
who works at the state capitol, and I wear my hair natural, locked proudly, without hesitation, have a nose ring, don't feel compelled to like have my face like real made up, and wear shoes that, have a mass lean to them. For
Mm-hmm.
them, it was just like, whoa, like thank you. Because they're thinking that they're gonna have to like clean up their lives when they leave to go to the professional world. And so on one hand, it's a sad indictment for the society that we've created that's made young women think that they can't, young Black women in particular, think that they can't have natural hair, think that they can't have locks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad that they are in that place, but I was really grateful to be able to offer a model for them, just based on like literally just by showing up and being in my body. They were inspired. So it was just, yeah, so much Scotty love. It was a great place. I was really excited to be there, and I hope to get invited back again soon.
Well, I'm so glad. Like I'm smiling because it just again another moment in which my heart is full. I mean, shout out to Agnes Scott for the invitation and just it really goes to I'm grateful that my graduate studies dollars are going to this particular establishment in which you guys are seeing it in real time. I'm getting to focus on strategic communication, and here we are each week with this weekly recap in which I have a unique insight under the gold dome with you and being able to just highlight these moments. And so for you to be able to go and just be your authentic self and show that to these students, I mean, this is it. This is the work. This is what you strive for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So this is a huge gift. So much gratitude. It was the Diversity and Equity Inclusion Office that invited me along with the Black Student Union for their
mhm.
keynote Black. It was their keynote Black History event. So just so much gratitude for them and gratitude for those young women who are going to go out and change the world. They're excited. And somebody in that room, there are like 50 women there. One of them or more is going to run for office, and they'll do it soon. And I'm super stoked about that. So yeah.
Great. Well, Senator Jackson, I just want to hold space for where we are. As you said, it's been a rough, not couple, a few weeks. Some of our previous episodes just from this session has shown just like kind of the emotional toll these past few weeks have been. So it really is um wonderful to be able to just be in this energy. And part of that, I want to highlight that you had a special visitor at the Capitol this week as well.
I did, and it was a surprise visit too that I had no idea was happening. But Trina, my wife, I want to say her first, but Trina and Reece, our baby boy, came down for a visit, and it was the day after SB 63 had passed, and so it was, it was, I was still very much kind of in that funk. And yeah, they just showed up. I was kind of I was actually getting ready to leave, and my chief of staff and legislative aide Tina, like they both like kind of made me stay. It was a little, I was like, what's happening? It was kind of awkward. But then all of a sudden, like he like comes around the corner, and it was just it was exactly what I needed, and it was so great. And then I got to take him to Reese's family room, is the name of our nursery that we have just next door. So he got to play in the room that's named
Hmm.
after him, and it was, yeah, I that little boy is the light of my life, and I'm was so glad to have him here and to have him like he's this little black boy, who's like riding his truck down the middle of the hallway with all the flags, that we have. And it's normal for like he will the cap being at the Capitol will be normal for him. The people's house will really
Yes.
be his house. And I'm just really glad to be able to expose him to that in that way, right? He came and he had a picnic with me at Agnes Scott beforehand, and we were just like, hey Reese, like this is college, this is like big kids school, and you'll get to go here, go to college one day too. Like just being able to introduce him to those kinds of events and experiences and really just kind of expand his mind, it's it's just a gift. And to know especially like where he came from, where those things would not have ever been possible, I feel really honored and blessed to be able to be his ama and to do this work with him.
Hmm. The people's house will be his house.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Well, as always, want to honor time. I know you're at the Capitol today in session, and the work continues. I don't want to miss the opportunity to make a quick ask before we roll off of this episode, because I mean the people want to know how was that work day? How was that farm day last week? I mean, how are the goats thriving?
The goats are great. I want to say one of my neighbors. So I told you like the whole job was to like get all of this like dumped stuff out of the back of the woods so that we could expand their grazing. So we pulled out so much like trash that one of my neighbors texted and was like, "Are you all moving?" Um, because there was a wash machine, a dryer, and then just like bags and bags. And I was like, well, we're moving things, but no, we're not moving. um, so
Hmm.
truly, like, I mean, I will say everything that we moved, I was just like, I totally live in the South. Like, this is like country people just dump stuff. Like, it just is, right?
What was the most interesting find?
Oh, we found some of these old bottles, like the glass bottles. First of all, you know how dish soap, Palmolive, has that distinctive dish soap shape. Apparently, they made it in glass bottles in that shape too. Like,
Ooh.
who knew? I'm sure somebody who's listening to this did know, but I didn't know. But yeah, we found like these jugs, these milk jugs that are like really, really old. I'm sure they're probably actually worth something. But so that was a cool find. And then just like the randomness of like who dumps a whole entire dryer. I don't know, but it probably, I mean, it has to be like, I am clear that that dryer is probably from like the 19, I don't know, it's old. Maybe not. Did they have wash machines that long ago? Somebody fact check
It
me on
was
that.
from when? How long
I,
ago was it?
I think it's probably, I mean, I'm guessing it's probably like from the 1950s. Like the bottles that we found from like the early 1900s, but I don't know. I just kind of assume that the wash machine and dryer were,
You guys
I don't
have
know,
your own like archive, like little capsule of just
trash.
of I was going to say treasures you know, that you can, I mean,
Yeah.
perspective. I mean, I think that's what this episode has been about as well, even though, there you can be surrounded by a lot of trash bills. But there are opportunities to find treasure. So I think we've been able to find the treasure this episode. What do you think, Senator Jackson?
This absolutely. We've seen a lot of joy and treasure this episode, and so I'm grateful for that. But for real though, I really am supposed to be working right now. So
Okay.
I gotta roll off. But I'm really grateful and thanks to everybody who listens to the pod. Take it away, Sharika.
You've been listening to another episode of God, Goats, and Government.
Until next time, continue to like, subscribe. We love the comments. Thank you all for leaving comments. Keep leaving comments and share this with a friend. We're so grateful for all of you all. Be easy, y'all.